Welcome to the Host African, where we discuss web hosting and how it relates to business, the individual, and its general role in society. I'm Ashwin, your host. In today's episode, we have Naftal Nyabuto, a highly accomplished businessman and innovator. Naftal, how do you do? Would you mind giving us a brief background of your business journey, please?
Yes, I think the brief background, as you just mentioned, is I've started a career some 18 years ago, doing much of technology. I've been in the industry for those years, but basically then leading some technology companies. And I've also worked in the charity space, doing a number of international projects, community projects, development projects. And it's between how technology can impact communities and how communities can absorb technology for purpose of impact in terms of development purpose. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think this journey began in 2016 and started by a bit of innovations, which were focused on small enterprises, that's micro enterprise and SMEs. And this was basically trying to get how SMEs can be able to boost their businesses by using their mobile phones and be able to have some specific CRMs on their phones, because these are guys who could not be able to have computers or afford computers. But the smartphone penetration in Kenya was very good. So we thought we should be able to enter that space. Over time, we have evolved, created quite a number of innovations which have won awards in Africa, which have won global awards. We have got innovations which have really created a huge impact in agriculture, in climate change, in corporates, in SMEs. So it's a quite huge portfolio. Maybe we can be discussing them as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be keen to discuss them. My first question is actually knowing that you are as accomplished as you are. I mean, you've won international awards, like you mentioned, and you've also helped loads of people in the community. Like, which of those is your primary goal? I mean, are you looking to like be recognized for your efforts or your innovations, or is your main goal mostly to, let's say, provide assistance or ideas or whatever facilities or help basically for the community? And I mean, the awards just come because you were innovative in that sense.
Yes, I think you captured it rightly. I think my motivation has not been more of the recognition. And if you look at some of the technologies we have created over time, we have created technologies with the focus of impact, and that's not something that easier to do, because if you are so much focused on profits, then you realize that if you focus on technologies which have a bigger impact, then you don't turn around profits and you don't become very profitable very easily. So what we have done is trying to make sure that whatever technologies we are coming up with has a very positive impact to not only just the communities, but small businesses. And even if we are gotten into corporates, it's simply because some of our solutions were able to scale to the corporate level. But you realize, for example, let me give an example of what we are doing in areas like agri-tech. This is a very community-driven kind of projects, because agriculture is a big area in Africa, in Kenya, for example. And you realize most of those communities, for example, when you talk about things like AI, precision agriculture, IoTs, these are things they see on TV. They can't basically look at them as something they can consume or use. But how do you demystify them and make them very affordable to the extent that they can be like their day-to-day tools, just like they can have their normal tools in the house to use in their agriculture practices every day. So if you look at that, then you realize that innovations have a very big social impact. If you look at it from that perspective, then when you bring in corporates in, the corporates become now the enabler, because they have the muscle. They can be able to look at supporting the infrastructure that you need for you to be able to subsidize and end up having that social impact that you need at the community level. So I can say that that is the major focus, and I think that talks about my background more, and that has been the bigger driver.
Is your motivation to succeed basically to have an impact on the environment around you? Is that how we can sum it up?
Yes, that's accurate. That's the bigger motivation.
I mean, it sounds like a lifelong goal because it's I mean, to my mind, it's I mean, you're always going to be having ideas. There's always going to be problems to solve. I'm thinking if this podcast runs for a long time, we can get you on every 10 years and talk about what projects you've done, and you'll be working till you 90 or 100 maybe. Because yeah, I think it's a very noble approach. But how do you manage that with actually offering a hand or creating value for the community, and not, I don't want to say not focusing on profit, but maybe not having it as your main objective? Because I mean, all of these things of course cost money, you know.
Yes, I have a different school of thought, and I think let me just reference that the corporation as it is traditionally, which was basically more of a capitalist kind of corporation, is changing, and I give reference to what I feel like one of the business, what we studied in business school, Peter Drucker, who said that the corporation has to be part of the society, and the corporation as it was is transforming. Why? Because even corporations which are for profit, they have to create solutions which have actual problems they're solving that are a community problem. Those corporations have a more sustainable approach to making profits. And I feel that school of thought is the right school of thought. For example, some of the solutions we have are actually for profit, are basically profit solutions, but who are the people who are your clients or customers? These are community people. These are the masses who are likely to be the consumer of that product. So if you focus more on profit, what you're likely to do is that you are not going to create a client base that is loyal, that is looking at your solution as solving their day-to-day problems. So what we do is try to match both. How do you make sure that, yes, you are building sustainable solutions that can sustain the organization? Yes, make profit, which is the key driver, of course, but at the same time, that the communities that are the users or the consumers of these products look at you or the solutions as a tool that is their day-to-day tool that they can be able to use, whether is from their small businesses that they're doing or their day-to-day things. And then you asked a very important question. There's so many problems to solve. When are you going to be finishing solving them? And you are accurate. We might not be able to solve a lot of problems. What we have done is that we have created what we call, and I called it a technology ecosystem. I wrote a book and authored a book 4 years ago called The Spider Web Economy. A spider from the normal spider, the animal, spider web economy. And my thinking then was that I thought that collaboration is the new innovation. That the innovations are becoming more collaborative innovations. And from that book, I said that just like an ecosystem of animals or the how species interact to each other, we call them fauna and flora, interact to each other. The smaller and the bigger animals depend on each other and they collaborate for them to coexist. The reason I said that is that the reason I picked the animal spider was simple. The spider is an animal that does not really collaborate. It's a lonely animal. It hunts by itself, creates its own web. You don't find them working together. So it's a solitary animal, just like a number of corporations which were working in a solitary. So the spider is a solitary animal. So the transformation which has happened simply because spiders realized that they have to survive. Scientists over time discovered that for example, in Amazon forest, they have collaborated and they created a bigger web so they can be able to capture bigger prey. So they created what we call an orb. And the reason they created an orb is because instead of capturing flies, now they can capture bats or they can capture birds. So you see that kind of collaboration is because of trying to survive. So what we did right now is trying to see our technologies have to create a kind of ecosystems where everybody can be able to feed and be able to serve different other segments of the community, because you can't solve everything. So it's like now you create a foundation and you create an infrastructure and you get some other organizations tapping into the same infrastructure or us tapping into other organization infrastructures. So you realize that all of them are coexisting with each other, so that to avoid having too many segmented different products, which maybe they're not actually, they end up looking overwhelming. But in actual sense, that is not how we are structured.
Well, that's actually a very interesting concept. I mean, I was also unaware of that spiders were collaborating in the Amazon rainforest. Because I mean, like you said, whenever I see local spiders here, it's they're always solitary. So it's definitely a new idea, I'd say. And I mean, the way you contextualize it, really, it's kind of changing my perspective on how I look at what companies or corporations offer. I want to find out, like, I mean, you're doing a lot of work trying to uplift the community. Does is would you say the line of thinking you have now, would you attribute that to your success?
Yes, I think so because I can be able to say we are one of the few startups in Africa who have basically bootstrapped and been able to be successful by bootstrapping. And that can only become possible if you have a different thought process where you working in, you create a kind of a collaborative environment where you are able to succeed by creating that kind of infrastructure where different segments of the industry, from let's say an example, manufacturing, banking, insurance, all these kind of industries, you sit in the middle of them. And then what happens when you sit in the middle of them, then you're no longer becoming a small boy, then you become bigger, because the moment you dine with the bigger ones, then you are part of them. And I think that is part of the success. As I said, sometimes if you start by trying to feed the community by your technologies alone without the funding you need, you cannot be able to succeed, because first you need to subsidize, you need to make it affordable. So where do you get the finances to sustain the infrastructure to be able to afford that? Then it becomes impossible. Then you will start looking for grants and such kind of donor charity. Then you turn the charity organization. But we took a different model. We said, okay, for you to be able to feed, you need to have yourself. You need to be full yourself so that you can be able to feed others. But for you to do that again, you need to be with the people. You can be able to facilitate to help you feed. So I think we introduced some bit of technologies that have enabled that. Let me give an example. We have one technology called Haba Haba. Haba Haba is Kiswahili name, means, small, small, saving small, small. This technology has become very successful as one of the technologies simply because we looked at the banking sector and we said, yes, the banking sector is good. The microfinances are good, but they are all capitalists. They are maximizing on the savings of these people and giving you small investment returns. Then you realize you have the infrastructure bonds and treasury bills. They are a bit for bigger boys. Then you realize, okay, so what happens with these small guys who are in the informal, who are having their $2, $3 a day? What can happen to them? Why can't we interface? And then we say, okay, you as banks, yes, you want to maximize on it, but we looked for a fund manager who can be able to put a pool of this individual smaller investment. These are guys who are doing agriculture, doing SME small. They're only earning a day $2, $3, $4. Then we said, okay, we'll pull this money, then give you as the fund manager, give us some 15, 16%, because now it's a bigger pool. We take that risk, we become the guarantor there. Then we are able to spread this kind of benefit, the returns, to the consumer, who ordinarily, if you put your only $100 in a bank, nobody will give you 12, 13, 14% a year. I mean, that small monies you are putting in a bank, the bank will maximize. So what we do, so you see right now, we are offering specific benefit to this informal person in terms of the form of micro saving using their mobile phone. But in the actual sense, you are working with the bigger boys. So you see, you are getting impact in a different way.
I mean, I'm just thinking that, I mean, with you kind of putting forward all these different ideas or different ways of solving, like common problems, like are you well known by the local people as well? Because or do you try to keep your personal life away from the solutions that you're offering? You mentioned, like, the standard model is kind of, let's say, capitalist in nature. People's out to make a dollar, and I mean, it's everybody wants to survive. So it's I wouldn't say it's a bad thing per se, but like it doesn't really bring us together. I mean, if everybody's just looking out for themselves, so like, well, what's the reaction to you being or you kind of offering all of these services or solutions? Like what's the general public's reaction to all of this? Do they know who you are, or do you like to keep a low profile? Or because I mean, like, I'm just thinking if, just as a quick example, if someone is like homeless or whatever, or they don't have a job, and you provide them with a job or give them an opportunity for a job, they would obviously, I feel like they'd look out for you a lot more. They would obviously respect you more. Like, is that the case with the people in your area, or do they not know about you at all?
They don't know. I think people create impact differently. There are those ones who do it by wanting to be the face of it out there for a number of our solutions. But there are those ones who, for example, like me, who try to keep a different perspective of being out there. Because we have a lot of our solutions we have created and assisted a number of charity organizations or NGOs on the ground to do specific things and achieve different impacts without, let me give an example. We're working with some organization doing onions for farmers in Kajiado, in parts of Nairobi, in Kajiado County. And they came and said, these farmers face XYZ challenges and we don't have the funds to develop technologies and AI technologies to help them be able to identify some pests and diseases, get advice on what they can be able to do just from their phone. And I said, okay, we have the infrastructure ready. So why should I charge them for infrastructure? I developed the technology for them and told them, get some few farmers, start using them for free. Once it succeeds, then you raise funds from it. Once you're able to raise funds, because they're a charity organization, it's an NGO, you raise funds with it, then come back and support the cost and now pay for it, and then we scale. And that is what exactly has happened. So sometimes capitalism doesn't mean that you have to, it has to come fast. As I said, the future of the corporation is going to be social. That is what is going to happen, where people are going to look at the value, people are going to look at how an organization takes care of the community interests or the consumers first. And that is what is going to keep an organization, a corporation more sustainable, because that's what loyalty is about.
I mean, that's quite interesting. It's just it's it's not often that I speak to someone with your perspective, you know. So I'm just trying to wrap my mind around all of these ideas. I mean, you mentioned providing a solution for these farmers. And so I mean, my next question is not specific to them, but what would you say is a field or technology that excites you the most? I mean, because it sounds like you're pretty deep in AI, and I'm guessing I mean you said you've done some CRM projects as well. Like what technology excites you the most essentially?
The beauty of this technology, everything keeps changing. The new excitements come. What excited us in 10 years ago is different from what excites us. And I think previously, before AI, AI is one of the exciting technologies, but I think we started developing more. My excitement was more of the IoT kind of things before even AI came. And I think that's the field that was more exciting, because I think it was interesting on how you can create objects to communicate to each other and put them on the network. So that was more interesting because connectivity was critical. Because most of these technologies, it's like we might say how internet came in. The emergence of internet created excitement to everybody. So wherever you are laying any solutions within the internet space, it's always looked exciting. But now it was like, how do we go ahead and now connect people who are not on the internet, but still create a network like internet, but at the local level? It's like interconnecting brick and mortar. I think people are not necessarily on the internet, but interconnect them. So IoT was a very interesting technology for me. But right now, AI has come in, but it is not in isolation, because AI is just an enabler. It is working to now power and make other things become easier. The technologies that you have been working become a bit easier, and I think it has helped a lot in terms of making it possible that the communities can be able now to do things. You can actually reduce the cost of even doing community empowerment, education, and knowledge management. And I think for me, that's why I believe that AI, democratizing it the way it is right now, is going to make it easier to create a better or more social impact than any other technology. And I think that's why the excitement is it right now.
I don't disagree, but I think something. I mean, this is less of a question, but more of an, let's say, an idea, or maybe something based on a bit of my own experience. And it's, that I think having the technology doesn't necessarily solve our problems. Because I mean, you as an example, I mean, you have lots of insight and business experience, right? So you generally have a path for the solution or for the problem that you're trying to solve, right? You know where you want to go. But someone who's, let's say, they don't have any education, or they aren't as familiar, or they don't know how to solve the problem, or they don't even know what the problem is, but they're trying to make use of the technology. I mean, like, it obviously won't be as effective for them. But I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think the benefit will vary from person to person. But something else you mentioned about one of your businesses, that you built it by bootstrapping. And for our audience members who don't know, that's basically building from the ground up with no or little money or funding. I mean, you just created it basically on your own. So, I mean, what would you say is the key component to successfully bootstrapping a business? Because I think there's many people out there who's trying to get their business off the ground. And I mean, like, finding funding is not something that they know how to do, or something they just can't procure. So, like, what's the key component?
I'll give my own experience from me just mention this because about 90% of the startups we started together who are between my circle of friends, let me just start from there. They collapsed in the second year because they took the arm of raising funds. This Silicon Valley buzz of raising money, getting VCs and angel investors. No, the Silicon Valley disease is a buzz that had just come here, and everybody was like, I can raise 1 million, I can raise 2 million, and I can come this big. So they all focused there. And the mistake that happened is that I told them I don't want to learn about VCs. I don't want to learn anything called fundraising, because our traditional businesses were always built without this kind of Silicon Valley issues. So I said it, okay. Then something changes. That is the first area of bootstrapping. You end up changing your business model to suit what is trending in terms of where the VCs are putting their money. So you change your business model not because your idea focuses on that business model, but this is because it is what the VCs want at that point. So your pitch decks, everything you want trying to do online is focusing there. So what happens is it affects your original concept or idea. Then bootstrapping becomes impossible at that point. Look at it from my end. I said, yes, that means my business model has to focus on sustaining myself from day one. So it means we have to find a formula of how we can sustain ourselves until we break even without necessarily having the external funds coming in. So that means your brain and mind, and every day you wake up, you know you are alone, you need to sustain yourself, you need to survive. Because the moment you have a brain whereby you have to look for business and you have to fundraise, those are two different things you're doing, because fundraising means you're doing pitch decks, you're pitching, you are looking for the right VCs, they have documentation, they're telling you have to go meet them, but they're not guaranteeing you funds. And this process, takes quite a while. So what happens? You end up affecting your income here. If the other wing money doesn't come in, what happens? You collapse. It basically means you can't survive. And I think for me, that is the first level from ideation level. It has to be very clear. I'll fundraise, yes, but I need to start it from year 2 or year 3 or when I'm broken even. Then your focus goes into first sustaining the business, making it profitable, or at least making it generate revenue before you start focusing on. And I think for me, that is the first level of the thought process of bootstrapping. It starts from there.
Okay, so let's say for someone who, let's say they take that approach and focus on the business first, right? I mean, funds is probably at the low point since they're starting. I mean, they bootstrapping the business. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, if assuming their product or their idea is not fully developed, right? Like, would you go forward with that service or product? Not as a consumer, but let's say it was your business, and I mean, you need some funds to kind of make to ensure the product is completed, but it's, let's say, 90% complete. You kind of, you can do something with it, but it's not where you want it to be. Would you still consider focusing on the business and not fundraising just to get that last 10%?
I have a different school of thought in this the entrepreneur, because I think sometimes we take ourselves to be in a developed markets where it's easier to get people to give you money, family gives you money, banks gives you money. That's a different kind of setup. Let me give it an example of where we are right now in Kenya, which for example, I have an idea, fantastic idea, but it needs funding for it to come out. 99% of those ideas will die from day one because you might not get those funds. Because your idea purely depends on you getting the money to pick up. So there are those ones who have an idea, but they have reached a stage of where they have the network. They can be able to call a few friends, or they can easily fundraise. Then that's a different scope. That's a different entrepreneur. That's a different entrepreneur who already has a ground from which his idea can be funded to be until the time it gets an MVP, or until the stage that it's now, it picks up. So I don't think it is wise for a starter entrepreneur who is just starting afresh, trying to build a network, trying to start a few ideas, to put yourself in the same pedestal. For this guy, Naftal, for example, has done his 14, 15 years, build a network. He can easily come up with an idea and call a friend and tell the friend, you know what, I need some 100,000 to push this idea, or already you are out there. Some angel investor will say, I trust Naftal because of his profile. I think I can put in my 10,000. So it becomes different. So we have to start up entrepreneur who end up using a wrong one. I always say, start with an idea that even without funds, you can pull it. That's how you become an entrepreneur. Our mothers were selling tomatoes and educating us. They were selling things. Were they thinking about funding them? No. They had small monies. They start small and they grow until it reaches a time that the bank comes in and tells them, you know what, we have seen your financial records. Now we can pump in money. Bootstrapping has been there originally. That's where entrepreneurs have started. This craziness of funding is a buzz which started up some 10 years ago in this country, and that is, for me, I think, where we are killing entrepreneurship, because every young entrepreneur is thinking about being funded. And that is where we get it wrong. Then you get a concept from internet working elsewhere. You can't bootstrap it. It's impossible to bootstrap. Like most of the ideas which are B2C ideas, it's purely hard to bootstrap them. You need money for you to pull them through. Fantastic, but you need money. I always tell the guys who can listen is, keep your idea which needs VC and everything. If you don't have the network and you are not to that stage, start with an idea that you can bootstrap. Once you bootstrap, you learn things. You learn how it works, what doesn't work. You build a profile. Now, it doesn't hurt. Now, bring that fantastic idea at that point, which needs to be funded. Then you will not go down. You are likely to be now, you're already at somewhere. You can easily push through. Yeah.
You know what's interesting, and I'd say kind of scary as well, is that the way you put that forward, the way you put that idea forward, is that it made me realize that my ideas for how starting a business, or just let's say, like, trying to make it successful, I didn't even realize I was kind of boxing myself with that perception, but hearing your perspective kind of it takes me out of the box, it's like it makes things seem a bit more possible, with that, with just the way you put it forward. I mean, it feels very insightful to me. It's quite cool. But a question I want to ask, because I mean, like, you shared a lot of your philosophy on let's say entrepreneurship and business, and I feel like maybe that's a bit closer to who you are as a person. So I think this question is relevant for you. But, like, what direction are you trying to steer your industry towards, that will have the biggest impact on the most people?
My focus has been a bit different. I've gotten a lot of guys coming and saying, you can do this, stop focusing on this, just focus here, we can make more money here and all that. Of course, that is money is good. I think it's what we are all looking towards, and the business is sustaining ourselves. But I have a different philosophy, and as you said, it is more closer to who I am. Is that I want to give it from an example. When AI came in, and I realized that it's become a buzzword in this country where every conference and everybody is talking about AI, I created, I can say, the first public AI locally here called Wakili AI. And but then I was with my friends who are lawyers, and I was asking them if AI can disrupt their space, and they said, no, 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 it is only our space of lawyers that you can't. AI is not going to disrupt. I said, okay, let me do something to see if it can disrupt. So I created a public chatbot, and I trained it on the Kenyan laws, the Kenyan case laws, everything that concerning statutes and everything, and made it public and made it free of charge. And it became so famous that guys could go there and consult, because lawyers in this country ask for around $30 minimum to $50 for consultation. I have a problem with my wife. How do I go through divorce? How do I go through separation? You charge me $30. So this thing now, everybody, within the first month, we had 100,000 conversations. And guys were there doing conversations and drafting a contract for land with a local person, draft a contract print with using the Kenyan law structure, and things changed. The lawyers wrote me letters from the lawyer advocates body that I'm providing legal services and I'm not a lawyer, which is, they said it's illegal and everything. So so I told them, no, 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 me, I've provided a platform, and this one shows you how technology can create impact and disrupt how we can provide services to communities. That was just showing them. And over time, so many things have changed. Now they have come back and said, okay, so what can we do? I said, we need to democratize justice. It should not be only for people who can afford. You guys have made these things very expensive. Now let me create for you an AI for your law firms so that you can reduce the cost of research, because the cost of research is huge. You reduce the cost of research, the cost of drafting, all those kind of things, but pass that cost, reduction of cost benefits to the consumer, so that you make it easier for consumers to access justice. That way, we can say technology as AI has created social impact, but you're making profits, but the community is also benefiting. You're seeing it. So this kind of perspective is what I feel is the right way. So from then, I've been able to talk with a number of organizations like Kenya Chamber of Commerce, Kenya Private Sector Association, Kenya Association of Manufacturing. I told them, let's partner. We create solutions at the top level. Then we make them very affordable for your micro SMEs, your SMEs, guys who ordinarily cannot afford AI infrastructure. They cannot afford IoT. They cannot afford a number of CRMs in the market. So that is the level. We said, then we can create a bigger impact. You look for your donor as an association. Me, I'm coming in and we come and co-create. We have a huge technology and we have a lot of engineers in-house here. We create those solutions. I'm not going to charge you anything. I'm not a supplier. You're coming in and I'm coming in to create the solutions for you. Once the SME start using those solutions at a very affordable rate, an MSME, what could we have done? We could have made AI, IoT, or any other technology, we could have democratized it by making it more affordable and accessible. For me, I feel that is the essence of technology.
First of all, I tend to agree, but I probably need to fact check myself on this. But what I think is that the guy who created the internet, he had a similar idea, and that's why he made it free, because he kind of wanted he wanted it to be accessible for everyone. So it's nice to know that there's I mean, people like yourself out there whose their main focus is not just capital, because I mean, like, yes, competition does, I mean, it does drive innovation, but at the end of the day, like you mentioned, it's not really sustainable, but I mean, definitely the way you're solving problems, the way you're approaching things, it's uh something I should think about. I'm actually thinking I wanna get your book after our podcast to maybe get some more of those insights. In your bio, you mentioned that you found your passion developing tech with social impact while working for an NGO, and I mean, you mentioned it earlier as well. Like, can you tell us a bit more about this experience?
Yeah, for almost 3 years, I worked for at Geospace, and at that point, I was a programs manager, and I was managing projects of livelihood projects, specifically for adaptation in climate change, because I was in the environmental climate change space. What meant there is that we are trying to change how communities protect the environment, because we thought that you cannot tell people not to cut trees down, and maybe that's their livelihood. Some of the communities have to sell that tree to take their children to school. And we thought that we need to make sure that the economic aspect of the community is the most important aspect, because that's what adaptation is about. So I worked with a number of UN projects, specifically UNDP, UNEP funded projects, and with a local NGO. That is what the transformation started from. Because I was a computer science person, but I find myself in my undergraduates in computer science, but I'm finding myself in projects. Simply because when I did my master's in project management, but you see, my background and the basis and foundation is basically computer science. So when I was in that space, then it was like, what can we be able to do for the communities to be able to do things? And one of the turning point is when one of the projects funded through the government with huge, almost $200 million to communities to do livelihood projects. And out of that, within 2 years, those projects, when I was part of the evaluation team looking at the success of those projects, only around 10% of them had turned profitable. The rest of them, they were not profitable, they had collapsed. And most of these guys have been funded something like $300,000, $200,000. You can imagine, for doing community livelihood projects, things like beekeeping, guys do fish farming, smallholder farming, those kind of things. But at the end of the day, that money goes into waste, while these communities cannot be able to turn this project to become profitable. So what it meant that we need to find solutions for this. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of money coming in, and this community's livelihood, their poverty levels doesn't change. So that is when the introduction of things like a few of technologies came in. And I thought, okay, first of all, we need first to, these guys are not going to school, and you are trying to teach them how to do business plan. Why can't we create them a simple tool for them to be able to just key in what they have, and it's able to populate for them their P&L, or then be able to calculate their cash flow or anything, and be able to even give them indicators of the prices they need to sell. Let me tell you, one of the communities I could go to, because I did business plan for FAO specifically, let me mention that, for almost 15 business community associations, I realized that they can't even know that they're making profit. They buy, they manufacture. This was for energy saving GCOs, and we call them fireless GCOs. They bring newspapers, they travel to go and bring raw materials. They have these women who wake up in the morning to make one fireless jiko the whole day, because that to be soon, it has to be done very well, neatly done. At the end of the day, when I ask them, so what is the cost of your materials? They could calculate. What is the cost of your labor? They don't pay themselves because they think they're working for the group. But they, at the end of the day, when they're selling, they sell at a loss. And they have done that for 1.5 years. So I ask the project, you guys are making these people become more poorer, because the time they could have spent in their farms, they're spending it in making this. What does it mean? Actually, their livelihood or their income levels has reduced. So it means we are not making these people any better from there. Actually, we are making them worse. And it is worse because psychologically they think they are making it, but they are not making it in actual sense. What does it mean? That now that is the basis of trying to come up with solutions and saying, okay, it looks like we need to have a better way of managing this. We have a better way of disseminating information. We have a better way of sustaining knowledge management in terms of knowledge and empowerment, because almost 40% of the money that comes for development projects in this country is used for empowerment and trainings. But I can tell you, some of the people who are being trained at the community, they are serial trainees. They go from one workshop to another, one workshop to another. They come back home, they have learned nothing, and they can't implement anything, because they're going there because they want to get some little bit of money. I so say, no. We have to have a way Then we didn't have a way of doing it very well structured. But right now, when age of AI, we're having a way, and I'm implementing it to have a sustainable approach of disseminating community information with the local language, where people can go there using their feature phone or WhatsApp or anything, do their livelihood, do their projects, do everything they need to do just using their phone. They can't browse, they can't search on the web and read all those documents and try to find how to do my fish farming or smallholder. What my fish is having problems today, what do I do? You know, those kind of things. So the whole concept here is that there is that background of NGO is the basis of a lot of the things that I'm doing right now.
Okay, something I want to touch on that you mentioned a bit earlier, and I mean you also mentioned now when you in this answer is that I mean your computer science background, because I'm just trying to relate this to maybe someone who's trying to start a project of their own. What's the process like for creating a solution that for, let's say, even the simplest problem, like let's say as an example, creating an app that like you said, the bot for Wakili, that kind of provides well, not legal services technically, but provides some assistance for these guys. Like what, I mean, you don't have to give the step by step process, but like what how accessible is that for someone who doesn't have a computer science background, or someone who's maybe untrained or uneducated? Because I mean, also like you said, I mean, they can probably go to a bunch of workshops or training sessions and still walk out there not knowing anything. Like what's the practical way that that someone can get that done?
There might not be very clear formula for this, because I usually say that when you are an entrepreneur, you can easily spot opportunities, and you see you only spot opportunities through seeing the problems. And when you see the problem, then you ask yourself, if I find a solution for this problem, will somebody buy that solution? Because you need to ask yourself those questions. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, they get excited of a fantastic solution, they focus on their solution, and then they end up realizing that they were solving a problem that is not existing, just because the solution was exciting. Because in tech, that is the biggest problem challenge, because in tech, a lot of things are exciting. You can easily be tempted to come up with something. So assuming you are not in tech, for example, I always have this belief: don't do things that are not within the space that you understand when you are starting as an entrepreneur. Why? Because unless you are lucky, you are likely to meet more obstacles than a person who understands the space. For example, if I'm in media, I'm likely to spot opportunities faster within that space. Then it is easier for me to navigate challenges because I already understand the space. However, if you have an interest that needs technology and you are not a tech person, then I always encourage, first get a co-founder who is in the tech space. It always helps. Why? Because then you focus on what you understand best, and he focuses or she focuses on what they understand best. Because sometimes entrepreneurs make this, for example, you are not in tech space, you get a developer, an engineer develops for you an app. You forget at the stage of developing the app, it's at the initial stage. The product will evolve, obviously. And that evolution needs somebody who can be able to nurture it, recreate it, redevelop it, sometimes even change it. You will end up getting, let me use the word, screwed up with a lot of engineers and developers. And they'll give you stories and they delay your vision. You'll get disappointed, frustrated. Your clients get frustrated and things happen. Assuming you have the money, you are able to bring engineers and employ them. That still does not solve the problem. Why? Because if you are not able to do connecting some things that they do, then they are likely to also start playing the games, which in most of cases is very frustrating for a lot of people I meet. So I always say, if you're going to tech, it's a good space. You don't have to be tech. Identify your co-founder who is in that, who is tech. They will help you figure out a few things, and they'll help you run operational level and manage those engineers. That's number one area. Number two, when it comes to identification of a problem, I think that is universal, because you don't have to be tech to identify a problem. Most of the time, problems is from the surrounding, the environment, the people you interact with. I think I think solutions developed from that becomes easier. Let me give an example. You know how Facebook came up with? These are guys in students in Harvard. They want to socialize within themselves, and somebody says, "Can we be able to develop something for our socio here in the school?" It ends up becoming something global. What does that mean? It means most of the solutions, which even of those ones who have come global, are developed from your interaction level, your social network level, the people around you. So anybody can do that. After that, if you identify, then ask yourself, if it was you, can you buy this solution, or what is it saving? Once you do that, then you go to the next stage of saying, okay, now I need to develop it. What do I need? Then that's when you identify the right team, the right people to start putting things together.
Okay, I mean that certainly puts it into perspective because I'm not an entrepreneur, so there's lots of knowledge gaps that I need to fill myself. But the idea I had was the I mean as everything becomes more kind of intertwined with technology, you kind of being left behind if you aren't at least putting your foot in some sort of tech environment, or whatever technology it is, but contextualizing it like that, it does put it in perspective that I mean, people who's maybe not as technologically inclined, there's still problems for them to solve. They still have a market. It's that like the world isn't running away without them. Basically, is what it sounds like. But I mean, I want to find out like how hard is it to fill with so many tech resources available to business owners, because the kind of like I just mentioned, we kind of like swarmed by all the technology around us, or maybe at least in some of the developed areas of our cities. I'm sure like in the outskirts of our respective countries, there's still people maybe just operating with a simple phone, not even an Android really. But yeah, like how easy is it to fail with all these technologies? Like what are the common traps that new business owners will fall into when they look at the mountain of tools that's available to them?
Yeah, I always say that it's harder to run a technology company than any other business, because other businesses you become easily more focused. If today I'm making a pen and I want to manufacture a unique pen, I mean my innovation and everything will go to the pen, and just like any other product, so you get more focused. But the moment you go into the tech space, you are likely to get into the temptation of being overwhelmed by ideas and new things which are coming in, and most of the time that becomes the trap. And another part is that when you assume that the technology you have is the most fantastic one and it's usable. For example, you realize you can make a tech, and then you realize the country you are deploying it with, or where you are deploying, most of the likely consumers, they don't have the right technology to access the technology that you have built, for example. But you come to discover that too late, when you have already developed the technology, you have used a lot of resources, and then you come to discover later that it's not possible. That's one of the major pitfall or obstacle that you meet. But the next other obstacle is for technology firms is that there is always issues when it comes to technology changes. For example, today you realize there's a lot of cybersecurity issues which can easily bring down the technology that you have built. So our clients become so worried in terms of what they could be able to do. And then the next thing is you have this fantastic idea, but the infrastructure on where this technology will be hosted, how this technology will be secured, how technology can scale up. Those things that most of the time they don't come into mind of an entrepreneur who is excited with the idea. So you reach that stage, then you realize you need a lot of more funds to scale, or you need more funds to be able to protect this. So you also again stagnate, or you have to change focus. So those becomes some of the obstacles you see in the technology space. It might look the most exciting space because everybody talks about technology nowadays, but I can be able to say the highest number of entrepreneurs or startups that fail are also in technology. As far as they're the highest, but are also the highest that fail. Why? Because it is very easy for anybody to start anything. If today you want to start anything, you just need to pick an idea from wherever, start it. Then you only discover the time you get to what we say in Kenya here, that the ground is different. When you hit the ground, you have now finished boardroom work of developing a solution. Now, when you hit the ground and you discover things are totally different, then you have to keep reiterating and trying to do things, and then you don't have the funds. You need money to survive yourself. Maybe if you have a family, they are telling you, "No, stop doing those things, go back to job." All these pressures make an entrepreneur know to give up. And I think that's some of the challenges or things that entrepreneurs or guys in the tech space always face.
Just based on that, and also a lot of what you said earlier on, I mean, it sounds like the way to kind of I'd say succeed is just follow the simplest kind of solution or problem that you or your community is experiencing at a local level, because I think this is also kind of an idea maybe that I kind of maybe picked up online, or just from the all the innovations happening. But you tend to think if you're creating something, it needs to be the most exceptional, most innovative, like, it's just out of the box. But I mean, just based on all your insights, like the simplest solution wins the race, basically.
And I can tell you that is, I think things made from simplicity have ended up. No, the complexity will come later, but the simplest of the solutions are the most successful one. I can say that because I built a few startups which have failed, and then I can give from that experience. For example, I built one of the startups which there was this fantastic idea or concept of when in Kenya the issues of lending were becoming big. A lot of fintechs were lending left and right, and there are so many of them which lend. And I saw the opportunity. I said, okay, for me, I don't want to lend. I don't have the cash to lend, but I want to build a peer-to-peer. You know how peer-to-peer works. And Naftal has some money. Yes, so I built a peer-to-peer kind of solution, and this peer-to-peer was to come out of. Currently, it is what's existing in the market is B2C kind of lending. A corporation or a fintech lends to a consumer directly. So I decided, no. Why can't we build a different solution? Because people lend to each other either way. My friends borrows me money and maybe doesn't return my money. So borrowing each other is a habit that is currently existing. So we said, okay, why can't we formalize it and build a peer-to-peer solution? But in this peer-to-peer, what we do is create a wallet as a platform owner. We get you to open a wallet as an investor, and we call it an investment wallet. That's now the peer, that's the investor peer. So you come in, you have your $20 disposable. You don't want to use, but you want to reinvest it in lending to somebody. So you put the money into the wallet. Then we have another person who is the consumer now here. But as we change the model, we say we don't want people borrowing to consume. We want people to borrow to use it for business. So in that way, the only person who opens the account to borrow has to own a business, either small business selling in the marketplace, wherever. Then you open a wallet. Then now we introduce what we call agents. Agents is now the broker, the person who looks for this guy who want to borrow, but he becomes the guarantor because he's the one who knows the borrower. So in that perspective, which I thought was fantastic, we are creating 3 layers here. We are creating the person who is investing. We are creating the agent, who is the person who is selling money that is not his or hers. And we have the borrower, who is, of course, the beneficiary at the end of the day. So this thing was fantastic. I told my friends, you start with your friends. Can you put some few monies here? And we told 2 agents in one of the informal settlements in Nairobi, where to register a few businesses. So the business will come to the agent's shop, just like M-Pesa agent. I want to borrow money. I come to the agent. I say I want to borrow money. They take you the normal KYC, puts you once $10. The investors will get the notification of the dollars, the request. They authorize money from their wallet to move to the borrower. And fantastic idea, nice, looks nice. We tested it. But now, what we didn't realize that has stagnated the process, because that business has not grown anywhere, is that the borrowing culture in this country is a bit different. We thought, what I realized over time is that some people borrow not with an intention of not returning. Uh, yeah, just because they know the investor or the lender is not known to them. You see, people, because there's no consequence. If I borrow from a bank, I know I'll be followed and my business will be, so that has become the challenge. But you see, I think also I didn't do a good research. but it was looking a fantastic idea. There is a gap for it. There's an opportunity for it. So I'm trying to say here that some ideas might look very fantastic and looking nice, but assuming that was my only startup, you see, I could have collapsed by now. You see what I'm saying? Because I couldn't have sustained. For me to sustain that, then it means maybe we need to put more better stuff. We even did blockchain there to make sure that there's a ledger to make traceability, how the money moves, and all those kind of things. You have spent your money, you have built the infrastructure, but you see what? You have not moved forward. So it's just there. So that is a true example of how some ideas might look so nice, but when you start piloting or testing them to prove the concept, you are trying to create that minimum viable project, then you realize that there are dynamics you didn't consider, whether they are cultural, whether they are behaviors, and it means you have to start changing those behaviors. There's a cost of changing the behavior. There's a cost of creating awareness. There's a cost, creating the structures, all those kind of things. Then you don't have the funds, obviously it will collapse.
Okay, it's a very interesting story from your side. I mean, I feel like it definitely highlights how, kind of like you said, things can look good on the outside, but I mean, once what's it saying? Once you hit the ground, it's something completely different. But yeah, I mean, like I'm just trying to mull over all the concepts and insights that you shared. I mean, it's definitely been illuminating for me. I'm at the end of my list of questions for you, but I definitely think that I'd like to have you on again sometime and pick your brain, get some more of your insights, and just share some of those experiences that you have. Because I think the way you contextualize the information, I think it makes it really digestible, especially using your examples, your own experiences, that it makes it real, So I think I definitely think our audience will learn a lot from watching this episode with you. And I mean, also I'm sure you elaborate more in your book, which is definitely something I'd recommend they'd get. But yeah, that basically sums up our. That's the book. Okay, now we know. I mean, that basically sums up our episode. I mean, it's been fantastic getting to know you, Naftal, and learning from you, your insights, your expertise. As usual, for all your hosting needs, feel free to check out our website. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you're into that kind of thing, you can find Naftal and his business online as well. We'll have details for the ones that he'd like to make you aware of in our show notes. If you watch the episode, you'll know that this man has a lot of ideas, a lot of concepts, businesses in his spider web. So yeah, we'll get the ones that he wants to push forward. But if you have any questions or topics you'd like to hear about, feel free to reach out to us. Again, we'll have the details of today's episode in the show notes. So thanks for listening to the HostAfrica. Goodbye.